Did you make 2023 preparedness goals and did you complete them? I'm going to be reviewing the ones that I made, and I will tell you right now, I definitely had some big fails. So let's just jump right in. I went back and I watched the video that I made last year, which you can check out in a link up above, all about the goals that I had in place for 2023 to see if I actually achieved any of the 4 goals that I set for myself. Spoiler alert, not so much, but I have some good reasons why and ways that I pivoted throughout the year. One of the caveats I made in that video was that we were in the process of looking for a house and we hoped to move, and all of that panned out, which is a huge blessing. We were able to move out of the townhouse where we were renters into our home, but in that process we had a lot of maintenance that had to happen on the home that we purchased, and then moving in, of course, is challenging, and getting the kids adjusted to the new space. So it was a lot of change and upheaval kind of 2 years back to back. We moved from West Virginia to North Carolina in 2022, and then we moved from our townhouse rental to our hopefully long-term home in 2023. So hopefully 2024 is a year of stability. That being said, it absolutely impacted my ability to follow through on the 4 different goals that I had. My first goal of 2023 was to get CPR and first aid recertified and to do CERT training. I did not do any of this. Partially because in the first chunk of the year, the available times for first aid and CPR training did not align with a schedule that worked for me and my husband, so I wasn't able to do it then. The summer was taken up with travel and then prepping the new house for the move-in, getting everything packed, and then all fall was basically trying to get the house unpacked and ready to go. So by the time my head came up from under the water of moving, it was already late September, early October, and the only 2 available weekend training programs that fit my schedule, one was a hybrid online program, which I didn't want to do, and then the other one was just, it would have been very difficult for me to do. So, not to make excuses, simply to say it was deprioritized because of the move. Now, I absolutely do want to do this training. You're gonna see it later in the video as one of my goals for this coming year, but I was not able to achieve the very first goal I set for myself, so that's a big fail. The second goal that I set for myself for 2023 was to expand my water storage with the goal of, if we move to a new house, to get a 55-gallon drum, and if not, to make sure I had more than a week's worth of water. Now, a week's worth of water for us is 50 gallons, and I can say I did achieve at least part of this. When we moved from West Virginia, we had to leave behind our 55-gallon drum for a whole bunch of reasons, so we've been looking to replace it. Honestly, they're quite pricey, and I wanted to spend our money in something a little more portable, a little more functional, and I wanted to focus on water we could store in-home. I can say confidently that we have achieved at least part of this second goal. We now have more than 50 gallons. We have about 55 gallons of water storage here in our home. That is excluding things like water that is in our hot water heater and such. This is just drinking water that we've stored in different locations around the house. I feel very happy about this. And these are all in 5 to 7 gallon totes, which is something that the 4 oldest people in our family, so myself, my husband, and my 2 teenage boys, can easily pick up and move. So we have part of the water storage in place. So that is ching, 1 goal, 1 win in my list of goals for 2023. By the way, if you're just now finding me, hi, my name is Brecky and this is Sustainable Prepping, your home for empowerment through preparedness, where I am hoping to encourage you to have a more prepared lifestyle without having to fall for doom and gloom. Today, I am reviewing my 2023 goals. I hope that you will join me in making some 2024 goals at the end of the video. So my third goal was a skills-based goal, and that was to try and can something new every month. I utterly failed at this. I basically only canned things about 6 different times this year. Again, the move absolutely swamped me. I packed up my pressure canner and basically was out of sight, out of mind. My jars were packed up for a long time. I did get back into canning towards the end of the year. I made apple butter, I canned chicken, I canned ground beef. So I did catch up a little bit, but I didn't try a lot of new recipes. Now I definitely want to try try some new recipes. In fact, I'm very interested in trying some of the things I'm seeing over on Sutton's Days Canuary playlist. If you are unfamiliar, Sutton's Days, Lisa is just a fantastic human, and she runs Canuary, where you're supposed to can new things all through the month of January. I will link it down below for you. I did not can something every month. It was just too many other things, and having all of my canning supplies out and unpacked was challenging. So from about May to about September, all my canning stuff was packed up. So I failed at that one, not because I wasn't interested, but because logistics of moving just made it really challenging. So my fourth goal was, again, a skills-based goal, and that was container gardening and or preserving in a non-pressure canning capacity. And I failed at this too. In part, again, this move was so disruptive. I didn't feel like investing in creating a container garden that I would have to move and possibly lose that effort. It just was not a priority. The move became the biggest priority for me. And I think that happens to a lot of us, that big life changes swoop in and they realign our goals. So I was not able to work on container gardening. I was not able to work on alternative methods of preserving, like salt or sugaring meat and things like that. I've done a little bit of fermentation, but frankly, it just was deprioritized. The move was all consuming between having a full-time job, trying to run the YouTube channel, and trying to learn new things. I had to take something off my plate. So in short, 2023 was not a year of achieving all of my goals. For good reasons, I would argue, but still not a year of stellar performance. And as a typical A+ student who always wants to achieve, I have some feelings about that. But looking forward into 2024, I can actually take some of the priorities that I made in 2023 and just carry them over. So I want us to make some goals together. I want us to spend a few minutes thinking about what is the biggest priority for you, your family, and your preparedness. For me, I want to shift away from just gathering gear because I have a very solid base. There are a few particular items I want to continue to stock up on. I want to continue to save to buy some bigger things. Like I'd really love to buy a whole house generator, but I don't have the space or the money for that at the moment. But I want to shift away from a more gear-based preparedness plan to a skills-based preparedness plan, just like last year. So for me in 2024, my first goal and priority is going to be getting CPR and first aid recertified. That is going to be high on my priorities list. One of my sons was actually CPR certified through his health class at school. They had a full certification program, like a full 2-week certification program. So I feel very confident that he has that certification. My older son, I don't believe did that in any of his health classes. So I think I will see if he and I can go and get CPR and first aid certified. I'm very excited about it. This is definitely a priority, and I'm going to try to prioritize it to do in the winter and spring so that I don't get sidetracked once the summer months come. My second goal is going to be more home-based. Now that we have a home, our long-term live-in home, we can do some modifications to the house. We can do some modifications to the property that we were more hesitant to do when we were renters. So the second priority is going to be putting in some kind of garden. Now we have a giant mulch pile that I've talked about in other videos that needs to be spread. We have a space where we can start putting in raised beds. We weren't able to put in fruit plants in the fall, which was our first priority. I'm going to see if we can do it in this winter period, but if we can't, we'll just do it next fall. But I do want to put in at least 2 to 3 raised beds and begin the process of creating a garden space on our property. Now, unfortunately, we have a massive deer problem, like huge deer problem, and we live in an urban environment, an urban suburban environment where there's not a lot of ways to regulate them well. You can't exactly hunt them because you're surrounded by people. So the only way to have a garden that is protected from deer is to build really tall fences. And that is the one thing that's sort of slowing us down from getting some other projects done. So big priority this year so that we can start the growing season off right is to get the mulch down, get the raised beds in place, and then to build a perimeter fence high enough to keep the deer away. It won't be a perfect garden, it won't be a functional garden, and it won't be a homestead replace the grocery store garden, but to practice the skill of gardening and to get a few things growing on our property, that is a big priority for me. So that will be goal number 2. Another thing for our family, again, is home-based goals now that we have our long-term home, and that is going to be moving from water storage to rain reclamation. So I really want to figure out some way, even if it's a imperfect method, and I want to talk about this in other videos, but I want to get some water rain catchment system in place. Now you can get the whole gutter things, and you can build a whole rain catchment system, and you can get the big 1,000-gallon totes. Those are all awesome, but they take a lot of effort and a lot of ability to do technical work, which is something that I don't have that skill. Not that I can't learn, but I don't have that skill. Neither does my husband, and my husband has limited mobility because of some back issues. So we may have to do some, we might call it redneck engineering versions of water catchment, but for me, moving from just storing water, which is important, to being able to harvest our water is an important move. There is no way for us to store all the water that we could possibly need, but if we can begin to harvest water from rainfall and then filter that water, we have at least a possibility of a replenishing source in the event of a true long grid down situation. So having our water storage, we have over a week's worth. My goal is to eventually get that to 2 weeks. I am planning on doing a 55-gallon drum that will live out in our shed because we don't get too much freezing temperatures here. So once we get that in place, we'll have our 2 weeks set, and I want to then focus on our rain catchment building, our capacity to bring in water that we can then filter in the house and have that be replenishing rather than having that limited static water storage. Whereas my goals last year were more kitchen-based, this year they're a little bit more general home-based, and my fourth and final goal is a personal goal that I have been keeping up with and that I really want to continue to maintain and grow, and that is strength training. I am in the process of trying to become pretty strong with usable functional strength. I can deadlift about 140 pounds right now, which I'm very proud of, and my goal is to get close to 200 pounds. I don't know if I can do that in a year realistically, but my aim is to continue whole body strength training, because the stronger I am with functional, meaningful strength, so mobility and strength, right? Mobility, strength, and endurance, that trifecta of awesome. The more of that I have in play, the less likely I am to be injured, and the more I can do around the house for myself. So doing all of that so I stay generally healthy, I stay generally strong, and I stay functional is really key for me. This may not seem like a preparedness priority, but honestly, you are your best prep. So what you can do to invest in your health, in your fitness, in your skills, these are always going to pay dividends because you always have you. You may not have your gear, you may not have your house, but you always have you. So investing in yourself is key. So what do you plan on doing in 2024? Do you have preparedness goals? Have you made preparedness goals in the past? And how have you achieved them? One of the things that I find is challenging is that unlike other New Year's resolutions or goals, preparedness goals are not something that we get a lot of encouragement about. If you go into strength training, for example, there's tons of apps and communities to cheer you on and special challenges throughout the year to keep you on track. But not so much if you are building your first go bag, for example, putting together your first storm kit or whatever. All of these are things you're gonna have to be very self-motivated on. I wanna make sure that I'm encouraging you to keep up with your goals. Comment down below and let me know what your first couple of goals are. What are your top 1 or 2 priorities for 2024? And how can I encourage you? How can this be a place where you have that community of encouragement to make progress on your preparedness goals? Are you focused on creating a really strong gear foundation? Are you focused on skill building? Is it a little bit of both? I'd love to know what you're up to this coming year. Y'all, the holidays were wonderful, but we were laid out by the flu that's going around for several days. So it's been a while since I've been making videos. I have missed hearing from all of you. I truly hope you're doing well and that 2024 is off to a beautiful, fresh beginning for each and every one of you. If you are interested in learning more about how I build up foundational preparedness, you should check out this video right here. And until the next video, y'all, happy prepping.